Welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we usually talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're mixing it up a little. We're going to celebrate our 500th episode of the podcast by looking back 10 years to episodes 1 through 5.
Ugh, I'm already tired.
Back, way back. To 2011. We were so young.
I know.
So naive.
Like 10 years younger. Roughly.
Like 10 years ago, I was probably 40 years younger, I think. That's
1 year ago, I was 40 years younger. It has been
just crazy. Yeah, this is true. It's been a crazy decade. So happy 500, DJ.
Thank you. Happy 500. What do we do now?
They said it couldn't happen.
Who said that? Give me their phone number.
They them.
Did.
Rival video game podcasts.
Ooh, well, who are our rival shows? Do we need I feel like we should have some by this point. We should just be notorious.
Yeah, we need a diss track, and I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's pick a fight. Who do we pick a fight with?
Oh, man, I don't know. Giant Bomb. Whatever their new gig is. Let's take them out.
Yeah. People really like them.
Take them down while they're new.
I don't even know how to do that. It's so far removed from my personality. I don't even know where to begin. I just like to be liked. I like to sort of be endearing to people.
Yeah. What was that going off on Twitter a couple of weeks ago about their enemies or something? And I was like, wow, you have a list of enemies you maintain? Do I have any enemies I should know about? I don't know.
Yeah. Are they enemies if you don't know about it?
I feel like they could be. I mean, being an enemy is not necessarily doesn't necessarily go both ways, I think. Or maybe it does.
Right.
I don't know how that works. Not enough enemies.
Just some person from high school who just holds a grudge to this day.
Right. Is that an enemy? Yeah. I probably wouldn't consider them my enemy.
No, but you're definitely their enemy.
Yeah, so I should still watch out for them.
So we want to give a shout out to Deadly Gearhead and to Eshian from our Discord. This episode was their idea, basically. We were not sure what to do with episode 500, and they have both suggested at one point or another that we look back on the first batch of games we ever talked about on the podcast. So we are rolling back and reviewing old outlines and old podcasts to refresh our memories on the games that we talked about on episodes 1 through 5 so long ago.
Let me tell you, I had so many good ideas for what we could have done with this episode. We were going to do the live stream, we're going to do the call-in show, we're going to do the panel in Las Vegas. But you talked me down from all of those.
Okay.
Which I'm kind of glad, because those would have been expensive. Especially the Vegas one. Yeah. That sounds ridiculous.
VGH Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll save that for episode 600.
Okay. All right.
So big thanks to those two folks from the Discord for dropping this great idea on us, because man, we needed good ideas.
Before we get into it,
yeah.
On the way in, you heard our very first intro music ever from episode 1, I believe. Nice. So we've now nearly completed the musical trip down memory lane. That was Searching by Eric Skiff. Thank you once again for allowing us to use that. We'll have a classic outro this episode as well.
Excellent. Before we dig into episodes 1 through 5, we have a question from Eshian, another question from Eshian on our Discord. He says, my question for you guys is, how did you two meet? And what happened that you, Randy, are in Pennsylvania and DJ is in California?
What happened? How come we are not in the same city?
Why are we not in the same room together? Yeah. So how did we meet, DJ?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Do you remember our first date?
I remember there are a lot of other people there.
Yeah, this is true. It was sort of a group hang.
Yeah.
Do kids still do that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Party up for some Fortnite or whatever.
Right. But we first connected on the Cheap Ass Gamer website and forum, playing what game together?
Playing Grand Theft Auto 4.
GTA 4. Yeah.
I believe it was on Liberty Island. No, I don't know.
And yeah, so there was a pretty good collection of people on that group. It's not a group. This is a forum. Are there still forums? Man, I feel like so much has changed in 10 years. Where people were trying to find other people to play video games with, and they had a GTA 4 night, and we both participated in that, and that sort of rolled into a bunch of other games. Jeez, I remember playing Burnout Paradise. I remember playing Battlefield Bad Company 2. Blur we played a lot of, and then we played a ton of Red Faction Armageddon, and all of those connections
Red Faction Guerrilla
happened. Red Faction Guerrilla, sorry.
We infamously could not play Red Faction Armageddon.
This is true.
More of that later, I suppose.
All of those connections came by way of Cheap Ass Gamer, so we certainly owe them and their forum a debt of gratitude.
Yeah.
We were not always a twosome. For those who have not listened to every episode of the podcast, we were once upon a time, we had 3 hosts on this show.
Sometimes we had 4.
Our buddy, this is true. Some PAX events and stuff, we had even more than that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but for the first several hundred episodes, we had a third co-host named Paul. We're still very much friends with Paul. Paul still hangs in our Discord, and we chat about video games almost every day with him. And Paul came from Cheap Ass Gamer as well. He was one of the connections that we made there. Although you knew Paul from even earlier than that.
Oh yeah, I've known Paul for I don't even want to say how long.
A very long time. But yeah, these connections, the reason DJ and I ever connected with each other is because we played video games together.
Figures.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we were in the same book club and decided to start a podcast about video games.
Start a podcast about video games. Yeah, exactly.
I've had it with this book club. Let's do something less like intellectually stimulating.
Right, yeah. And so, in what happened that you're in Pennsylvania and DJ's in California? Nothing. This is where we've always been.
Yeah, I just live here.
Yeah. Actually, that's not entirely true on my behalf. I started the podcast living in upstate New York. I lived in Poughkeepsie, and then moved many years ago to Pennsylvania. So my transition there is documented in the timeline of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in the same room for 10 years, so no backstory required.
It only sort of feels like it, yeah.
I'm in a different room, but same apartment.
Gotcha. But we've met in person before. We have had the two of us in rooms together in the past.
Right.
Yep. At PAX. I think we met at PAX once or twice.
I think so. Yeah, those PAX East the one year. Remember there was one year where we dragged falafels around half of Manhattan trying to find a place to eat them? That was not...
I do remember that. That was insane.
There was no PAX in sight on that one. That was just a separate thing.
Right. We did go to the Nintendo World Store, though.
We did.
Yeah. In New York City, when I lived in New York, DJ was visiting New York, and we decided to connect there. I think that might have been the first time we ever met in person.
I think it was, yes.
Yeah.
I tried to sneak up
because
on
I remember
outside.
a stranger sneaking up on me in the plaza outside of Nintendo World, and going, God, I hope this is DJ. Otherwise, this is just another crazy New Yorker.
Because I think I had a pretty good idea of what you look like. I don't think you knew what I looked like. So,
No, I don't think so.
Just meeting weirdos off the internet.
Fortunately, we decided to meet in a public place, my murder would be, witnessed by many.
Everybody at the Nintendo store.
Right. So we hung at the Nintendo store, and I think we got some caffeine, and we went to the milk bar. I remember that, and then We did. We got just these giant falafel pitas and just could not find a place for us to put our butts down and actually eat them. So we just carried them around Times Square and adjacent neighborhoods looking for some clean place to sit and eat.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good sandwich. So Etienne, we hope that satisfies your curiosity. There's no rift. We didn't, start in the same hometown and move far apart from each other or anything like that.
Trying to move farther away.
Exactly. If DJ got any further, he would fall into the ocean. So,
right.
Yeah.
I could move to Santa Cruz, but then that is the ocean.
I would have to go a little further to find some ocean, but let's not do that.
Let's not fall into the ocean.
So let's look back at that first batch of episodes. We released VGH number 1, which was titled "Subtle Like a Paper Shredder to the Face." That came out on January 17th, 2011. And in that episode, we were talking about our favorite games of the previous year, 2010. That's a habit we've kept up with throughout the 10 years of this thing. We use the first episode of every year to kind of look back on the previous year's top games.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we just mentioned Dragon Quest IX every 6 months.
That has also been
another tradition.
An ongoing thing here, yeah. So my 5 favorite games from 2010 from the previous year were number 5, Alpha Protocol, number 4, Splinter Cell Conviction, number 3, Enslaved: Odyssey to the West. Remember that game? Number 2, Alan Wake, and number 1, the aforementioned Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of the Starry Skies.
That was your first sort of dive into JRPGs, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was sort of funny to sort of see in our notes for our outline for episode 1 was my little comment was like, I've never played a game like this before. Really, that was a year that I was way outside of my comfort zone. Alpha Protocol as well, which is sort of an RPG, an action RPG. But that was really one of the first games that I ever played that had, significant kind of branching dialogue options and, different avenues you could sort of role play that character down and go in different directions with the plot and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I was really sort of breaking new ground in terms of how I was consuming video games and what I found interesting. Generally not a fan of fantasy, so the fact that Dragon Quest IX connected with me on any level was super surprising to not just me, but probably to you, I imagine, in a big way.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what got you to actually start playing that. Was it just because I was talking about it?
I think so. I think it probably just came from a place of you just being super enthusiastic about it and me maybe just itching for something new. Maybe there's something I'm missing here.
I don't even remember how I got into that game. I mean, new Dragon Quest, sure, but I did not like Dragon Quest VIII at all. So on some level, I'm surprised that I even played another Dragon Quest that willingly. I'm pretty sure I was skeptical going into it, but it turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah. I tried after playing Dragon Quest IX, which I think at the time was probably the most amount of time I'd ever played a video game. I had to have 100+ hours on that thing. It was certainly the first RPG I played. I had never played anything that had like a job system or a leveling system before, so there were a lot of firsts kind of baked into my experience with Dragon Quest IX. I from there, ultimately Nintendo released previous Dragon Quest games on the 3DS or DS. It must have been the DS at that point. And I tried to play some of the older ones and just could never get into them. Unfortunately, not a single one of them connected with me for any significant way. So Dragon Quest IX is a bit of an outlier in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Also, since we're mentioning Dragon Quest IX, I have to bring this up every single time. You mentioned the job system, and like you said, it was your first experience with something like this. And you're asking me, how do I use the job system? Like, is it important? And I've made this comment like, no, you don't need to worry about it if you don't want to. Don't let it confuse you or whatever. And the way you interpreted that was just never using it, which puts you at an enormous disadvantage to the rest of the game because you don't get all the free stat boosts that you get from the job system. But nevertheless, you completed the game, thus proving that you are a jobless Dragon Quest master. Unknowingly, even. Which, when I found out what had actually happened, I was just floored. So I just have to bring that up.
You should give better advice, DJ. I think.
Secret Dragon Quest Pro.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big experience for me, and just totally outside of my comfort zone from gaming.
It's just all been downhill from there.
Exactly.
No other game, no other RPG has lived up to Dragon Quest IX.
This is true. I have certainly found many other games over the course of my my considerable years playing them now that I've enjoyed and have had fun with, but man, nothing, ever kind of clicked in the way that Dragon Quest IX did. So what were your 5 favorite games from 2010?
I also had Dragon Quest. That was my number 1. Across 3D, Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2. Splinter Cell Conviction. And Just Cause 2. Oh man, Just Cause 2. That is... Still really loved that game. I loved it so much. Did not play either Just Cause 3 or 4. Because that was just another case where I was like... How can you top this? Like, why even bother?
Yeah. I was curious when we looked at this originally this afternoon, and whether or not they had announced Just Cause 5, or did it come out? Maybe it came out.
Not as far as I know, they have not announced that.
Yeah. So the internet says no, it agrees that there is not a Just Cause 5 yet, but you know it's going to happen. But yeah, I feel like those games are really, it's just sort of like, how many more things can this guy blow up?
Right.
It really just like, okay, cool, I get it. Giant explosions,
right.
That's fine.
I don't know how much we need to explain Just Cause 2, although it is 10 years old at this point, so maybe I'll get into it a little bit. It was just, I felt like there were so many open world games happening at that point. This was before, I guess GTA 4 was out. That had been out for a while. But everybody was trying to do the open world thing, and after a certain number of them, I was just like, why? Like, everybody's doing the same thing. I've played this game before. Mm-hmm. And then here comes Just Cause 2 out of nowhere. Did not play Just Cause 1, which sounds like it was kind of just like a mediocre sort of action, like linear action game. It's not open world, if I remember correctly. But Just Cause 2, you had this amazing open world on an island. You had just ridiculous stunts and stuff exploding all over the place. The game seemed like it was designed to just put you in the middle of an action movie. Like, it made it very easy to like hijack vehicles in ridiculous ways and get into absurd gunfights. And then you had this grappling hook and a parachute. And they designed it in a way where you could just, by using these sort of in tandem, you could just propel yourself around the environment like Spider-Man, basically. And then, like, traverse the entire island just using this grappling hook and parachute. And that was, like... I wonder what it was like when they realized what they had come up with. Because it was just so unconventional and weird. But, like, after just 5 or 10 minutes of using it, after you really got a hang of it, you're just like... Why would I ever hijack a car at this point? Why would I hijack a plane when I just have this parachute that takes me anywhere I want to go?
Right. It's funny that you mentioned sort of making it super easy to hijack cars, because all I remember is not driving cars in that game.
Yeah.
It's just using any other means of getting around that I possibly could, like grappling my way onto a helicopter and flying it, or, like you said, doing the aforementioned grappling hook / parachute combination.
And there was like... not really a huge variety of things to do on the island, but there was just so much of the same task to do over and over. Like, collect all these hidden packages, which I love, or blow up this military base, and just somehow it never got old to me. So I played that game so much, and I just felt like I was so happy with it. Why even make Just Cause 3? What's going to be significantly different with that one?
Right.
And I still don't know to this day. Maybe someday I'll try it, but just have such fond memories of that game.
Ignorance is bliss, DJ. You're fine.
All right.
Yeah. I want to detour down the road of Splinter Cell Conviction a little bit too, because was that the last Splinter Cell game? Or did Blacklist come after
Blacklist, and that was the last one.
Yeah. So, this is a series that it really does not exist anymore, unfortunately. And
it does on your phone, Randy. You can have Tom Clancy's Elite Squad or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about that thing. That is a thing that exists. But yeah, I mean, almost without exception, I enjoy these games. It's really, I mean, it sets the mold in a lot of ways for how sort of stealth works in video games. And certainly a lot of series since then have sort of, dropped stealth in it, had made stealth a feature or an option in many video games. But in a world where more often than not you're going in sort of guns blazing, as noisy as possible, to play a game like Splinter Cell where, you're incentivized and rewarded for being quiet and stealthy and patient and slow. It's just a completely different sort of mode for a video game to operate in.
Had you not played any of the earlier ones?
I didn't when they were new. I think I caught up to them eventually. Okay. I remember having like the Splinter Cell trilogy or something on like the PS3, I think. But
I just thought it was funny hearing you describe it as, very methodically sort of lurking through the shadows, because I remember Conviction especially being so fast compared to the previous games. Yeah.
And I think those more modern ones definitely kind of gave you options when shit went sideways. I remember it being either fail states or just so overwhelming a response in the earlier games that you couldn't possibly kind of shoot your way out of those things. And in Conviction and Blacklist, they would load you up with just big dumb guns and stuff like that.
Yeah. Conviction, not so much. I mean, definitely Blacklist, where they made that one of the 3 pillars of like, you can just, bring an assault rifle with you.
Oh, right. I remember that.
But in Conviction, I felt like, even though it was very different from the earlier games, it was definitely more of a stealth emphasis than Blacklist.
Yeah, I remember that. The title of this episode, Subtle Like a Paper Shredder to the Face, came from Splinter Cell.
Oh, that's right.
Because that's one of the takedowns in that game is you are beating the snot out of somebody in an office and you could stick their face in a paper shredder.
I still don't like to think about it.
This game also had it had its sort of main solo play campaign, but it also had an entire 2-player co-op campaign in it that you and I played together.
So good.
Where you're rival agents who are sort of forced, I think you're American and Russian, who are forced to work together on a mission. And the crazy thing is, the very last mission you get...
you're going to just give it away? Okay.
Are we going to give it away? I mean, this game's 10 years old. You get orders to kill each other.
Okay.
To take each other down. Yeah.
This is like my favorite twist in video games, almost. I mean, it's like, I don't know what my number one is. It's definitely up there. Yeah. I feel like just that supersedes whatever statute of limitations is on this thing.
I apologize then for anybody I've ruined it for. I should have, sounded the spoiler horn.
That's fine. Whatever. I mean, so... yeah, I often forget that there was this co-op thing, because whenever I think about Conviction, it was all about just this new take on Sam Fisher, being sort of more like a Jason Bourne, like rogue agent this time around, which I thought was very fresh.
Right.
It's like one of the freshest games I think Ubisoft has ever made. I always think of Ubisoft as just like, they look at something else and go, oh, that's a good idea, and they make their own version of that. But this felt like, I don't know, it was so refreshing and unusual, especially coming from the previous Splinter Cell games. It just really took me by surprise. But then, there's this co-op thing, and it was awesome because it was its own, like, separate kind of side story to the main campaign.
Right.
And you talk about... you talk about that climactic moment. I had always heard about, how Double Dragon ends, the original Double Dragon.
I do not.
Oh, man. Well, here comes spoilers of that game.
You gotta spoil Double Dragon for me.
You co-op through all of Double Dragon. It's like a brawler with your co-op partner, your brother, and you beat the last boss, and then you have to fight each other. And I remember reading about that. I didn't play Double Dragon all the way through the end. But when I read about that, I was just like, oh my god, imagine that moment. Like, I know it's like 20 years later at this point, and it was on this like dinky little NES game, but that would have just been like, my brain would have exploded if I had been there and experienced that.
Oh, that's funny.
And then years later, Splinter Cell Conviction comes along and just sort of recreates that exact moment.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable. I was just like, oh, finally, this is it. This is happening.
I didn't know that was a thing. There's the Scooby-Doo ending, and now apparently there's the Double Dragon
ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What if we had to fight each other at the end of this episode?
Yeah. This is where we'll see how it goes. Well, yeah. If it comes down to it, I'll take it down, DJ.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give it away.
That's right. Spoiler warning.
Yeah.
You gotta say this. Yeah. Yeah. So, rolling into VGH number 2, the subtitle for this was "Martha Washington Was My Prom Date." This came out on January 26, 2011. We were talking about our most anticipated games of that year. Yeah, I think my list included Portal 2. Man, I landed on that one because that remains one of my favorite games of all time. It is the gold standard for puzzle games in a lot of ways, I think. Still, 10 years later, has not been rivaled. I was looking forward to L.A. Noire, and I was looking forward to playing Brink.
Oh, man. So you were the one.
I was the one, yeah, who was somehow oddly excited about Brink.
Nobody knows what Brink is, but I don't think we need to get into it. Just trust that there was a game called Brink at some point. Oh, man. What was I looking forward to? I don't know. I don't have anything on my list. I guess I was just not looking forward to anything. I do have...
Yeah, that sounds like you.
It's true. I was actually that sounds like I was ahead of schedule in terms of my gaming tastes. But I have it on here that we were looking forward to the 3DS. Because that had not yet come out.
No, that was coming out in, we recorded that in January. The 3DS came out in March. So we were, and I think just at that point, going back to our notes, they had just announced sort of the launch lineup and stuff like that. Yeah. And Sony, conversely, was also teasing what we thought was going to be the PSP2 at that point. And it was eventually sort of was revealed to be, what did they call it? What was the nickname?
Well, at first it was the NGP, the next generation portable.
Right.
But it eventually became the Vita. But you remember, people used that NGP for a long time. It was very weird.
Yeah, so long that I had trouble remembering to call it the Vita for a while.
Yeah. Did that come out the same year? That was also 2011.
No, I think the PSP2. I think the Vita came out early 2012, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So it was just a tease that just sort of happened to coincide with the launch, probably not accidentally, with the launch of the 3DS.
Oh, right, because that was when they initially revealed it. Yeah, okay.
Right, yeah.
Man.
We actually did what we called a PlayStation emergency. We did sort of a 2.5 episode shortly afterwards, where we did sort of our reactions, our hot take on the Vita announcement.
Because we were bi-weekly at the time, so...
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have just waited until the next episode, but we did a special episode because we were that excited about it, I guess.
Yeah. So 3DS, 3DS was exciting. That was, we're coming out of the DS. It was another 2-screen handheld from Nintendo. This one had 3D that did not require glasses. I don't know. It just seemed kind of goofy and gimmicky, but in a very sort of Nintendo kind of appealing way.
I disagree. I feel like this was just a dark generation for portables. Really? I love the DS, I love the PSP, and it just seemed like with their successors, they did not know what to do with either of them. Like the 3D thing, I definitely got on your case about this. I was not a fan. I felt like it just did not add anything to any game. I would turn it off after 5 minutes. Just be like, hey, I got a new game. Oh, hey, the 3D works. All right, I confirmed it. Now I'll turn it off so I can actually look at this thing without getting a headache.
See, I like the 3D. I left it cranked all the way up to 11 on all of the games that I played. So I had a fine time with it.
It's okay to, just make poor decisions. There was the 3D thing. It felt like such a reaction to everybody was trying to do 3D televisions and movies at that point. And I was just like, it disappointed me that Nintendo was so obviously going after. I think people were treating it like it wasn't going to be a fad, but I think everybody knew this is not going to last, right? Not every TV is going to be 3D from now on.
Yeah. It wasn't just TV. Did you remember how frequently 3D movies were playing in theaters and how often you had to sort of
and they were gross
glasses? Yeah. I remember seeing like one of the Dark Knight movies in 3D and wearing the giant glasses and getting a huge headache from watching it. But it was a thing. It was a huge thing at that time.
For the record, I do like the 3DS 3D better than any 3D movie 3D. So I guess they had that going for it. Yeah. But it just felt like they couldn't just make a more powerful DS, which I would have been totally fine with. They didn't have like a weird central gimmick, because that was kind of their thing at the time. They had like the Wii, they had the DS, and like if they just released a Super DS or whatever, I wonder if people would have called them out. Just been like, well, what's the deal? It's not just another DS.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of was. I mean, it was.
I mean, ultimately,
if you strip the 3D, yeah, if you strip the 3D out of it, which ultimately Nintendo did as well, and released a 2DS, it really was just a more powerful DS.
Yeah, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But they had to burn everybody with that incredibly expensive price point at the start, because they had the 3D in it. I assume that's what contributed to that. Then with the Vita, I just felt like it was the same deal. Like, I would have been perfectly satisfied with a beefier PSP, because I love that thing. But it just felt like Sony decided to stuff every possible new technology into it. Like, they had the OLED screen. They had that back touch panel, which nobody really figured out how to use.
Nope.
All this other stuff, I forgot. And I'm sure there was some just gonzo features I'm forgetting, because there was so much weird stuff that they packed into the Vita. But that similarly, it was just so expensive and just so over capable. I don't know if it even lived up to how well the PSP did. Yeah,
it was very much sort of like their attempt to create a home style, a home quality in a handheld. Something obviously that Nintendo kind of proved later could be done, but just the world was not ready at that point. And a lot of the Vita experiences were pretty half baked. I mean, they're like, oh well, we have Uncharted. We have an Uncharted game on the Vita, and it's sure it technically is an Uncharted game, but not a great one.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, I don't know if the Switch has broken handheld systems forever and ever now. It just seems unlikely that somebody like Nintendo would ever make kind of a dedicated handheld that doesn't plug into your TV or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like the technology has caught up. When in 2011 it was difficult to actually put out a device of that size that you could take with you that could give you these like quote unquote console experiences. But now, you've got tablets, got your phone.
Smartphones, exactly.
You have the Switch, so why would you need a dedicated portable?
Yeah. I think that's what everybody sort of, argued with Nintendo about for many, many years, and it has finally sort of come to fruition.
Yeah. I think we're better off for it. I mean, as much as I like the concept of like, oh, here's my little tiny handheld that plays weird games, that they would never, they wouldn't fly on a console. I think, you can have that experience on the Switch now.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be sort of any shortage of those things. I appreciated sort of the, what felt like indie games at the time, what felt like these sort of weird kind of one-off, maybe a little low-budget kind of gaming experiences that would make their way into the 3DS or DS eShop. There's definitely still kind of a world that those live in on the Switch and other consoles inevitably too, or on mobile especially. It's cool that there's still kind of an outlet for video game developers who are not spending $60 million to make a video game.
Right.
Cool. So rolling into VGH number 3, this was called I've Got a History with Milk Cartons. I've Got a History with Milk Crates is what it was called. This came out on February 10th, 2011. This was us talking about kind of our gamer stories. We were looking back on kind of earliest gaming memories and the games that kind of formulated our taste in video games. We also, on this episode, talked about my trip to Champaign, Illinois to go to Volition headquarters to play Red Faction Armageddon, a game that had not been released yet.
Yeah.
It was meant to be sort of like a community outreach thing to get us hyped for this new upcoming game. And while the trip was awesome and it was super cool to see where a video game was made and to meet other people who were super into Red Faction, the game ultimately was a bit of an underwhelming experience. There were so many things that we liked about the previous game, about Red Faction Guerrilla, that just did not make their way into Red Faction Armageddon. It seemed like a lesser game. It seemed like a less aspirational video game, and we were not sold on it.
It really did, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It felt like just to go back to Red Faction Guerrilla, one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. We ended up playing that a lot, just because, like Just Cause 2, I suppose, it was just a completely different spin on online multiplayer, which would also, even though it was a relatively new thing that console generation, already felt like you were just seeing the same stuff pop up over and over again. But you had like fully destructible environments and just really amazing map and weapon design that just made this a complete standout game. And then for this Armageddon thing, it felt like, first of all, they just didn't include that multiplayer mode. But then they had all these grand plans to turn this into like a transmedia franchise. So along with this game, they had a made-for-TV movie, I think.
Yep.
And like a lot of other changes they made to this game that felt like they were designed to cater to more just like the general gaming population of like people who love I don't know what I would even throw out, like any co-op shooter or any shooter with a horde mode. That was the hot thing at the time. So they had a horde mode in this game. They had a little more fleshed out and linear single player campaign that tied in with the movie somehow. I never actually saw the movie.
It's funny sort of looking at the box art for Red Faction Armageddon now. The front of it has a giant logo for Sci-Fi Games, and it's SYFY, so it's the Sci-Fi Network. And so yeah, clearly someone at Sci-Fi was paying for development, for advertising, for I don't know, some sort of tie-in, because like you said, there was a sort of a corresponding TV movie that went along with it. Did not watch that either. As you know, as much as I enjoyed Guerrilla, could not be arsed to watch a corresponding television movie, particularly on the Sci-Fi Network.
I felt so bad because like as we were playing the like Guerrilla multiplayer, and this predated the podcast, I think. So this was just like us in the little ragtag gaming group we had. We had such a good relationship, I felt, with like the developers, or if not the developers, at least sort of the like community team, because we would be posting about this game all the time, and we would like enter contests and things, and you won like this trip you won had nothing to do with the show. You just won some random drawing, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, on the Red Faction forum, on the Volition website, yeah.
So, I mean, as much as I'd like to remember that it was just clout from hosting this podcast, I don't think the podcast existed. I mean, I guess it did if we were doing a show about it.
There were like 2 episodes at that point. There was not,
Yeah, but I was like, couldn't speak highly enough of Red Faction Guerrilla, loved the team and all the interaction we had, and then this sequel came out. I was just like, oh, I don't like this at all, and I just felt like I was just like kind of betrayal in both directions.
It did, yeah, and it felt super dirty just like to be there in person and go, yeah, guys, it's really fun. It's good. Cool, great, excellent. So you took out all the things that we love. Yeah. Okay, awesome, good. Yeah, yeah, and then just sort of still eat their food and accept their plane ticket and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's I can only imagine we're actually working for Polygon or Kotaku or something, and then being catered to and flown around and etc., and then not liking the video game. It's got to be a tough internal struggle.
That was your big chance to sell out. You could have just been like, oh, this is the best game I've ever played, money please, and that would have been it. They would have had a very different direction in the last 10 years of the show.
Yeah, very much so. I don't know. I'm a silver lining kind of guy. I look for redeeming things in anything I consume. And yeah, there were elements of Red Faction Armageddon that I had fun with. I don't remember what any of them are, but I played that game all the way through and completed it.
I mean, to be fair, it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. So I'm good at sort of like, hey, on the bright side, X, Y, and Z. And, I was very much looking for that in Armageddon.
I have my notes that I was playing Monster Hunter Freedom Unite at this point in 2011, which I guess I've been playing Monster Hunter for a few years at that point. Or I don't know. But that was still very early on in my Monster Hunter career. I was glad that it made an appearance that early in the show, though.
Was that the PSP one?
It
Was that the one that
was
required the claw to play it?
The PSP one, yeah. You still had the claw at that point. It was good. It was real good.
Nice. You had like hundreds of hours on that game, right?
Well, it's 600. It is hundreds.
Yeah. For comparison, just for the edification of our and entertainment of our listeners, that is more time than I've ever put into an Animal Crossing game.
That's not true. That is absolutely not true.
It's provably true. I have really never gotten beyond the 500-hour mark.
Oh, okay. So you got like most of the way there. You just said that you were like, I would never. 600? No. Out of the question.
How dare you?
599 at the most, and then I delete my file.
Right, exactly. And I smash my DS on the sidewalk.
Okay, right.
So rolling into VGH number 4, this episode was called Zed's Dead. That's a Pulp Fiction reference.
Got it.
This came out on February 21st, 2011. We were talking about the PlayStation phone.
Did we?
Remember the PlayStation phone? The Xperia? Yeah.
Oh, geez, now I remember it.
We were talking about controversial DLC. I think that was the year of Horse Armor.
Was it?
That week I was talking about, I think so.
Huh. That feels like...
And I was talking about
that
Ghost Trick.
So much earlier.
999 and Words with Friends. Remember Words with Friends?
I do. I remember at that time it seemed like there were a lot fewer cell phone games for people to play. So they would all gravitate more easily towards these. There was like Words with Friends. There was Draw Something, which I believe was also 2011. Man, Draw Something was good.
Yeah, that was a good time. Yeah, and I mean they were pretty unique in that where they were games like that were kind of asynchronous, where like it was just Scrabble, much to the dismay of the people who actually make Scrabble. But yeah, I would take my turn and put the phone down for a while, and then when you had a chance, you would log in and see that Randy played some word, and then you could play your word, so we could play Scrabble together with friends, and didn't have to sort of be kind of live and connected at the same time to do it. I think sort of video game attempts at making board games in the past required everybody to sort of be playing simultaneously, and this is the first time I remember there being kind of an asynchronous experience like this. Draw Something operated much the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the first time where it could even be possible, or at least convenient, since everybody suddenly had phones, or at least a lot of people suddenly had phones. Like this was even like modern smartphones were fairly new at this point. That's kind of weird to think about.
And that brings us up to VGH number 5. This was called You Don't Know Zangief. This came out on March 14th, 2011. Just a title probably inspired by me playing You Don't Know Jack that week. And Zangief is from Street Fighter, right? Is that right?
You got it. Nice job.
Hey, all right, good. I got halfway through that and I was like, I'm going to sound really dumb if I don't get this right.
You're doing better than that reporter who was wondering why Chun-Li wasn't in the new Mortal Kombat movie.
Even I know that's not a thing. It's a Nicki Minaj song. That's usually my jump off point. I'm like, I know who Chun-Li is because Nicki Minaj knows who Chun-Li is. Yeah. And I'm a closet Nicki Minaj fan. Out of the closet now, apparently. So we were talking about our favorite video game developers, and we were talking about some controversy about video game reviews. We were really just nailing all the hot topics in those early episodes.
Oh yeah. We had the whole thing back then. It was a very different show where we would talk about what we've been playing, but also there would be like the hot topic of the week.
Yes.
And I think at this point the show was still very young, so we were like, oh yeah, video game violence. Let's weigh in on that.
And unfortunately, we learned over time that you can't do that 500 times. Like, you can't sort of revisit video game violence for the 300th time.
The topics got less and less hot as the show went on.
Yeah.
Also, just became exhausting. I have so much, imagine keeping up with the news and just talking about the hottest controversies every week. It would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember us having sort of brainstorm meetings about what do we want to talk about this week, and poring over video game articles and video game news, trying to find a topic of the week. It's just so liberating to let that go and just sort of be lazy about what we talk about and be more comfortable sort of allowing the conversation on the show to kind of allow us to go down different avenues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Instead of it having to be this structured thing.
Yeah.
which I was sort of our biggest proponent of structure in the early days. And you were like, let's just have a conversation. Let's just talk about it. And I'm still the one, I think, kind of keeping us on an outline at the very least. But
I mean, I like the outline, but like my brain doesn't shut off if there's no outline.
Yeah. So yeah, I was talking about Killzone 3 that week and Bulletstorm.
2 games that are, just timeless classics.
I thought it was funny that in the outline for this episode, next to Bulletstorm, I wrote, "This is basically Ow My Balls, the video game."
That sounds like how I remember Bulletstorm.
Yeah, I fondly remember just basically every attack in that game being some form of a nutshot.
Oh, I was interpreting it as just like, oh man, video game humor, let's just make 20 hours of that.
Yeah, there was a lot of that too, absolutely. But no, I distinctly recall kicking a lot of dudes in the nards.
Ugh.
And Killzone 3, the penultimate Killzone game, it was fine. It was a fine video game. I remember fondly playing that.
It's fine.
I don't know where the Killzone series exists at this point. Probably nowhere, because Guerrilla is busy making Horizon Zero Dawn games.
That's right.
But yeah, these were like gold standard, like AAA shooters back in the day. Killzone 2 and 3, man, were a ton of fun. I played a lot of online multiplayer for both Killzone 2 and 3. There was a mode in Killzone, I think in 3, called Marked Man that I adored, that I would just play, just fire up the PS3 and play this alone without friends, just hop into a random room, which I'm totally have never been that kind of gamer. Where you would all be sort of on like one group together versus another group. And you would take turns being the marked man. One of you would be sort of the target. And everybody on the other team was trying to hunt for you. And everybody on your team was trying to protect you.
Okay, so you still had
and it would
teams.
switch.
That sounds very stressful.
Yeah. So, and periodically it would change. So like, for 3 minutes, DJ is the marked man. And now Randy is the marked man. So like you would take turns, like trying to protect and defend and occasionally trying to hunt each other. And it was super exciting. And I don't remember a video game mode up to that point that felt that kind of freewheeling, that sort of felt like it was kind of shifting gears and shifting priorities on you, kind of midstream. And then occasionally it was random. Occasionally you'd be like, Randy is the marked man. And I'm like, oh shit, it's me. And that was crazy. That was a good time.
Somehow I missed both of these. I mean, I know why I missed both of these. I was just, something about Killzone has never appealed to me. I was probably playing other multiplayer stuff, which sounds insane when I think about the sort of games that I was playing at the time or compared to what I'm playing now. Because back then, like during that PS3, Xbox 360 generation, I was really into like the online multiplayer stuff, like shooters, mostly shooters, I suppose.
You played a lot of Battlefield.
This was before Battlefield. I was gonna get
was it really?
Yeah. But I was like playing a lot of Modern Warfare. We played, we talked about Red Faction and GTA. And then Battlefield 3 came out later that year, and I played a ton of that. In fact, it was the most talked about game, it maybe still is, on this show until Final Fantasy XIV came out a couple years later. But I was just always going back to that game. There was always stuff to do in that. And then, I don't know, I mean, this was a few years later, but Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, and it's just sort of made me look back on all the games I've been playing and sort of question, like, have I really been enjoying these as much as other games that I could have been playing? And I feel like that was a real watershed moment where I just did a complete 180 on this kind of stuff I was playing.
Yeah, I can see that. I've been through a bit of an evolution like that. Like I said, those Call of Duty games and Battlefield games have never really been my thing. And I think the only way that I've ever kind of gotten to those games is through peer pressure, is through like, hey, all of your friends are playing this thing. And if you want to hang out with your friends, you have to play this game.
Oh, like the really like multiplayer centric ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I was never good at that. I never, I enjoyed like the campaigns in the Battlefield games. I enjoyed playing the campaign in Call of Duty. And it felt like nobody ever played those. It was like this extra thing on the disc that only I enjoyed. But yeah, if I wanted to hang out with you, or I wanted to hang out with sort of real world friends, people that I knew socially who lived in upstate New York with me, I would have to sort of, see them in Modern Warfare or whatever. It was no other,
make an appointment.
We weren't hanging out in Animal Crossing at that point. So it was, it was a tool for socialization in a lot of ways for me.
Yeah, I never really, we had our gaming group, but I never played a multiplayer game in the same way that people would play Halo back in the day, or just whatever was an Xbox Live on the OG Xbox.
Yeah.
Where it was just log in and join a lobby, and it's just a little social group. I mean, that is sort of what our group turned into, but it wasn't quite. I felt like it wasn't the exact thing that people were talking about when they would talk about jumping on Xbox Live.
Right. Yeah.
We were very focused. We were in there to, capture flags and score points and all that.
It's crazy to me that, thinking back to kind of that era of the way that we sort of consumed multiplayer games, is that I remember kind of having standing appointments for these things. I remember
oh yeah,
Thursday was Burnout night, and Tuesday was, or pick a night was Red Faction night, and so every night it was sort of get home from work, make dinner, and then make sure you're on the machine by 9 p.m. because everybody's going to be playing video games without you.
You don't get your invite, you can't join.
Green up, you got to green up. Yeah, I can't even imagine trying to squeeze that into my life at this point.
No, I can't even coordinate. I say this, it's tough enough to get a group together, but going back to Valheim lately, and for some reason it's not as much of a struggle to get people into that. Things like Discord certainly help. Back then it was just you gotta go to the forum and see if people are playing. What a nightmare.
Play with strangers? Nah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that was a bit of a look back on our first 5 episodes from 2011. Once again, big thanks to Deadly Gearhead and Eshian for the excellent idea that we stroll down memory lane and look back on those games and those episodes, and talking about kind of what got us together and what got us podcasting and all that other stuff. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Next week we're going to do episodes 6 through 10, and it's just going to be a loop for the next 100 or so episodes.
And behind the scenes, we'll just be catching up on our backlog so we can actually, get current with gaming.
Yeah, I bet there's stuff in my backlog from 2011. Should get into that.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is too.
2011 would be merciful. I'm sure there's older stuff than that.
So for the last couple of weeks, we've also been asking you, our listeners, and the folks in our Discord and community to check in with us for episode 500. If they had anything they wanted to ask us, anything they wanted to contribute to the show. We got a lot of nice people who said congratulations on the 500th episode, and nice kind of heartwarming things like that. So that's a plus. But we also got a few questions.
We got some questions
that we would like to answer now,
and calls. So yeah, let's go to the phone.
Calls.
Hey guys, this is Eric, Cube00. Congrats on 500 episodes. That is amazing. I figured I'd call in, get a couple of my questions in for the 500th episode. Let's see. What was your favorite PAX or gaming event that you went to in the last 15 years? Do you have a favorite multiplayer game from the last 20 years? And was there a release that you were hyped about, bought it, and it failed to meet your expectations? I can answer all these questions. My favorite PAX was probably 2010, first one I went to, or PAX East 2014. Got to meet you guys for the first time. Favorite multiplayer games from the last 10, 15 years? GoldenEye, Smash, Mario Kart, Red Faction Guerrilla, Blur, Borderlands 3, Divinity Original Sin. All fun games. And a game release that I was hyped about, that was kind of crappy. Rage and Layer on the PS3 were both pretty hyped about and both kind of duds. And you guys talked about Biomutant recently? Yeah, I was pretty hyped about that. Kind of playing through that right now, and I can definitely see it's got some rough edges. But congrats on 500 episodes, guys. I look forward to 500 more in PAX and meeting up and playing some games, grabbing some beers. I'll talk to you later.
All right, well, thanks so much. That was Q00. Frequent caller, longtime fan of the show. Continues to just call in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to hear from him. Also, someone that we connected with way back when on the Cheap Ass Gamer forum. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the the relationships forged at that time continue to persevere.
So in case you didn't catch some of that, I know the phone, it's, phones, am I right? Is asking about whether we have a favorite gaming event, including PAX and Penny Arcade Expo. Whether we have a favorite multiplayer game from the last 20 years. Like, how long has multiplayer gaming been around? And then if we had if there are any games we're looking forward to that did not meet our expectations.
Yeah. So I would agree with Cube's assessment on PAX East in 2014. That was one I always look fondly back upon. That was oddly sort of timed because it coincided exactly with my 40th birthday.
Whoa.
So I was away from friends, which is, a hard thing to say out loud still, but away from friends, away from family, not being able to sort of like celebrate my birthday with those people who, I generally would. But I was with my gamer buddies that weekend. I got to hang out with you and with Cube and with our buddy Pete and just a ton of other people, I'm sure. And we went for Mexican food and tequila drinks the one night, and got to sort of, do celebratory things for my birthday and did not have to sort of quietly observe it in my hotel room.
I ordered a $25 beer.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
It
was great hanging out with you guys. That is my prevailing memory.
Did you not?
I believe Cube was there, yeah.
Yeah, you both went $12.50 in on that one. Yeah. Yeah, so that was good. I remember nothing else about that year. I don't know what games I played. I don't know who was at the show and who was not, but I just remember it being kind of an awesome, fun time to hang out with people who I, shared a common interest with and never got to see in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is the big value of PAX anyway. Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Playing Animal Crossing 3 months before it comes out, that's super exciting. But, I would rather just hang out with cool people and get some beers and do fun stuff.
Yeah, PAX is really the only gaming thing that I've been to, like, convention-wise, I guess. I went to a couple E3s way back in the day. I don't know if I ever talked about it on here. That was way predates the show. But, gaming conventions are fun. I haven't gone to PAX in, I can't remember, probably around 2014, 2015. But whenever, like, a bunch of my buddies are gathered up in the same city so they can go to PAX, I will sometimes, like, fly out there just so I can hang out. Because that's much more appealing to me than standing in a convention center. Right,
absolutely. There have been some other events kind of on the East Coast. There's, I don't know if it exists anymore, MagFest, Super MagFest, which was short for Music and Gaming Festival, which was a lot of fun. I think I did it 2 or 3 years in a row. That was in DC, and that was really kind of like video game inspired bands and stuff like that. Definitely sort of like, rather than playing kind of a free-for-all gamer fest or a general purpose gamer fest, was more about kind of the music focus, which speaks to me, obviously. And there were things in Baltimore that I used to go to called the BitGen Gamer Fest, and it was a lot of they would have a couple of video game inspired bands and have a ton of arcade consoles on free play and stuff. So that was, again, just kind of a fun night out with beer and friends to play video games and listen to music.
The MagFest guys got in some trouble last year.
They did, yeah.
I wonder if there's going to be another one of those, or wonder what that's going to be like.
I don't know. It might be better off just handing that name over to somebody a little more socially responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, PAX is definitely sort of the granddaddy of all of them. Definitely brings people from all over the world and gives me an opportunity to catch up with some people that I really only get to interact with otherwise online.
Yeah. Favorite multiplayer game for the last 20 years? Jeez, when the window is that long. Man.
I mean, all good answers from Cube. You can't go wrong with Mario Kart. I've definitely sunk a lot of hours into multiplayer Mario Kart games. But yeah, I think the one that continues to be exciting when I think about it is Red Faction Guerrilla.
Yeah. I think if I played, if I were to just pick 3 sort of like all-time favorite multiplayer games, and I'm talking about stuff like, I don't know, sort of the conventional experience. I'm not including like Final Fantasy in this because clearly that would be in there. But like Red Faction Guerrilla for sure. But before that, Battlefield 2142, my favorite Battlefield game was when they really just like amped up the sort of teamwork aspects and sort of the weird equipment that you could carry along to support your squad.
Mm-hmm. That was the commander mode you talk about, right?
It wasn't the only one with commander mode, but that was in there. I don't think that ever came back after 2142. I don't remember if it was in 3. It might have been in 4. Not sure. But yeah, commander mode was very good. It was just like, I never seen somebody focus that much on interesting teamwork and sort of squad gameplay in a game at that point. So that was very cool. And then, of course, Unreal Tournament 2004. Played a ton of that. I actually built my first gaming PC so I could play that.
Oh, wow.
I played a lot of Unreal Tournament 99, like the original one. God, back when I did not have a gaming PC, it was a struggle getting that thing to even boot up. But man, that game was great. And when I found out they were making this other one, I forget how I even played this. I think there was a LAN party at my college campus, because that was about when this happened. So I got to play it there, and I was just like, oh my god, it's just like that other game. So I went through the whole process of building a PC, which was an experience, but eventually I got it to work, and it was kind of unbelievable. Really good. Spent hundreds of hours playing that thing.
We all came back for Unreal Tournament 3, which ultimately came out on the PS3. But we all played that together. That was one that we didn't mention at the top. That was one of the games that we all kind of synced up on in that cycle as well.
Yeah, for some reason that just didn't do it as much for me as 2004 did. I mean, it's still pretty fun. They just don't make games like that anymore.
Yeah.
They make a lot fewer games like that. But man, there's something about the 2004 edition that they had the secret sauce.
So hyped release that didn't meet expectations. The one that immediately comes to mind is GTA5 for me. That was I had such a good time with GTA 4. I played a ton of the single player campaign. We played a ton of the online together. It was just such a fun and kind of persistent and ever growing kind of experience. GTA 5, super hyped for the release of that. I think we did an entire show of this podcast dedicated to us just analyzing the trailer for that
we did.
game.
The last time you mentioned this, it was like an offline discussion, but I was like, we didn't do that. But we did.
We did, and you blacked it out. So
I did.
Yep.
Man, this game,
and yeah.
like, I don't like GTA 5. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I do remember just being so excited for it probably because of just like, we did play a lot of GTA 4 online, and I've always just generally been excited about a new Grand Theft Auto. So I felt like, time to get excited about this one. Like, what kind of crazy stuff are they going to have at this time? But when this came out, this was so weird. I was just like, had like a very busy period at work where I just like didn't have any free time to play games. And I just remember thinking like, okay, as soon as all these projects are done, GTA 5 will be out. Like the next day I can sit down, I can play this game that I've been looking forward to. And I started it up, and like within hours, I was like, this is the exact same game that I've been playing since the PS2. It's like the same mission structure. It's the same, like, not especially clever writing. It's very cringy. Like, the humor hasn't evolved since 2001. And I just thought to myself, this is what I was, like, looking forward to. This is my, like, respite from all the, like, the madness going on at work. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. I think it's sort of the funny thing about like that analysis episode we did of the trailer is that we clearly had more aspirations for what GTA 5 would be like than the people who were making the game. Because it really was GTA 4 warmed over. It was just an extension of that experience and it didn't grow in any significant way, except for the online component, which clearly has gone on to make bajillions of dollars every single day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on some level, online is amazing. It's, like, unbelievable. But it's just not really the thing that I wanted to play at the time.
Yeah. That wasn't the experience that I was kind of angling for.
Yeah. So I had, you know, very weird memories of that game around launch. But in a way, I'm grateful because it got me to, like, look back on all these other games that I've been spending time with and just thinking, like, what if I've been looking at the wrong stuff? What if I could be playing other things?
Yeah, absolutely. We should have a conversation on an upcoming episode about if GTA 6 was announced today, would you play it? We should have like that, sort of gaze into the crystal ball and have that conversation, because a GTA 6 is going to happen someday.
Is it?
I don't know.
Well, they're just going to make
Probably.
GTA Online too.
Just, continue to feed online and cash those checks.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into it. Save it.
Yeah. And then Cube wrapped up by asking us a question via text message. If we had found any new beers or drinks that we like during the course of quarantine.
I found a couple. I mean, it sounds like I was like in a forest somewhere. I'm like, oh, what have I stumbled across?
Would you like to buy a potion?
Right. Oh man, I wish it was that. I'll just get this out there. I last summer I was drinking a lot of. I mean, this sounds like an alcoholic. I was occasionally enjoying. I forget now the brewery, but it's called Mind Haze IPA, and I'm not really a fan of IPAs in general. But
Same.
For some reason, I was like in line at the store and I saw this and I was like, oh, Mind Haze, huh? Sounds like what I need right now. So I picked some up, and it's quite good. I enjoy it.
Excellent.
I've been buying it.
Sounds like the cure for 2020.
I know, seriously. It was right in the middle. It was like right last summer. So during the height of just weird paranoia and just abnormality going on, I was like, what can I drink that will transport my brain somewhere else?
While waiting in line for hours to buy toilet paper.
Right, 6 feet apart from everybody else in the store.
Yeah, 6 feet apart while, constantly hand sanitizing and adjusting your mask. You took a little time out to find a new IPA you like.
Yeah, or just
Excellent.
a IPA that I like.
Right, yeah.
And then the other one I want to give a shout out to is, this is more of a recent thing. There is sort of an offshoot of Sapporo beers called Sapporo Pure. It comes in this cute little white box. It's in little white, like, skinny cans.
Okay.
So it really just stands out on the shelf. And it's like become one of my favorite beers because it tastes like, this is like super pretentious, but it tastes like when you're actually in Tokyo in a little like izakaya bar and you order a draft beer. It tastes like that. So like if you were to buy Sapporo or like Kirin, Asahi, whatever Japanese beer over here in the US, they're fine. But drinking this, I was just like, speaking of being transported, I was just like, whoa, this, I don't know what they did, but this is it.
Oh, nice.
So
I don't have that
recommend
reference to draw from, so I'm not sure if I would appreciate it on that level, but
yeah, probably
like
irrelevant if
like a delicious beer.
Yeah, but keep that in mind if you're ever looking for that incredibly specific thing.
Yeah. Well, cool. For me, yeah, I mean, quarantine, I think it was like a period where I discovered mixed drinks.
Oh.
Like, I've never been a cocktail drinker. I've, last couple of years, probably 10, 15 years, it's been beers. And before that, like, I was not very adventurous when it came to alcohol. I did a lot of like wine coolers and Smirnoff Ice and things like that. Yeah, I know. Sorry. And yeah, I think like if I was totally confused and didn't know what to order, I would just get like a rum and Coke.
It's fine.
And yeah, it's fine. It's a kind of an all-purpose. It's sweet. Gets you a little buzz. It works. But yeah, over the quarantine, we have a distillery here in Harrisburg called the Midstate Distillery. A little shout out to those guys, who obviously we're not allowing people inside their building during the worst of it. But we're running drinks out to you out the back door. would mix up cocktails for you, put them on their Facebook page every single day, and people would line up their cars and kind of drive through, and they'd just hand you cocktails through the window. They were all taped up and had the little straw hole covered. You weren't allowed to drink them, obviously, until you got back to your residence. Fortunately, they don't live very far away. I didn't have to wait long to be able to consume them. But we would go, 2, maybe 3 times a week if the drink menu seemed especially interesting. And it was always some, concoction of a frozen thing or a fruity thing or a weird combination of drinks that just in a previous life would not sound appetizing to me in any way. But whatever. It's $5. It's quarantine. You're supporting a local business. I get a little buzz off of it and can enjoy my evening. That's fine. So we did a lot of that. Sarah and I would, she would screenshot the menu on Facebook every morning and send me a text message of it and go, "Which one do you want?" And we would stop and pick up
in the morning. Now who's an alcoholic?
I know, seriously. We wouldn't go in the morning, but they were updating our Facebook in the morning.
I understand that part, but I'm just like, all right, we're at breakfast, so just planning out the rest of my day.
I feel the need to defend my integrity here, but yeah. So I think I have maybe discovered a newfound respect for mixed drinks and mixology and cocktails during the quarantine. Yeah,
I've never really been into mixed drinks. I mean, I'm very curious about them because a lot of people seem to enjoy them. But whenever I order one, it's just like, oh, this tastes like 4 different kinds of alcohol and sugar.
Oh, so you've had a Long Island iced tea.
I did once by accident.
That's more or less what it is. No tea, for those who don't know.
Yeah, no, make sure you realize that. Somebody, like the very first one I had, they were like, "Oh, Long Island iced tea, here you go." I was like, "Oh, I like tea." That's not what it is.
There's none of that, yeah.
That was a good night.
So big thanks to Cube for all of those questions, little conversation starters. We appreciate you immensely.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for being there for the last 500 episodes. How ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And then I think that's the last thing on the list. We have a call from a very special guest. Should I say who this is?
Sure.
Okay, it's Paul. It's that guy.
Hey.
He said quite a lot of stuff, actually. I'm just gonna leave you with this clip of it, and we'll go from there.
Hey guys, what's up? It's been a while. Not sure if I remember how to do this. I had a thick layer of dust on my microphone here. But I just wanted to congratulate you on the 500,000 episodes of VGH. That's pretty impressive. It's been a while since we had a chance to chat, so I'll give you a quick Cole's Notes version of some updates on games and stuff. Mass Effect still good. Witcher not as good. Well, the company is not as good, but the game's still very good. Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy, yeah, let's go. All good. But seriously, 500,000 episodes is a hell of a run. I remember when we started the podcast all those decades ago, it feels like at this point, 500 episodes felt like a pipe dream. So I'm really, really stoked to see that you guys hit 500. I mean, technically, we probably passed 500 a few episodes ago, but who's counting, right? But yeah, I mean, you guys have been doing a great job. I miss you lots. And I figured it might be kind of fun to insert some of my favorite highlights of the show over the years. You know, some Randy clips and some DJ clips from yesteryear. Use them if you want. Delete them if you want. But I had these kicking around for a while, so I thought, you know, what the hell, let's just go ahead and send them your way. Anyhow, I could probably do this for a very, very long time, and nobody wants me to do that. So...
I should go. I should go. I should go.
Congratulations again, guys. Here's to another 5 with a bunch of zeros after it episodes of VGH. Yeah.
All right, and then there were a bunch of clips, as he mentioned, and he said we could use them or delete them. And after listening to them, I decided they're better off deleted. So, at least I think I deleted them. I hope so.
Cruel. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if you're super curious, you can go back and listen to the early stuff. But at this point, I don't wish that on anyone.
Yeah. Hello, Paul. Thank you so much for checking in. We certainly would not have gotten to this point without Paul helping us get this thing off the ground and carrying part of it for many, many years. I love and adore that I'm still friends with him, and he's still sort of in our little Discord community, and that we still get to interact with him about video games really every day. I think, the frequency with which I think you and I interact with Paul about games has not changed significantly since he left the show. So that's kind of awesome and a testament to, friendship and the power of games bringing people together, I think.
I just want to say thank you so much, Paul, for sending this in. We do really appreciate all the fun little clips. But I didn't mean to sound like vindictive or anything like let's just throw all these in the garbage, but I prefer to think of them as, they're just fun little memories that Randy and I are going to share between ourselves. So
we can say for our listeners that, if you have the curiosity to go back and listen to kind of the early days to check back in on episodes 1 through 5 or whatever, every episode we've ever recorded still lives on the internet. You can download it from your podcast player of choice, inevitably. We were not the most technologically savvy in the early days. They may not sound great. In fact, I can guarantee they don't always sound great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
were pretty aspirational. We had a lot of big dreams about what the show was going to be like. I had an image of it being more of like a variety show. We were doing little skits and stuff. And then, slowly over time, a lot of those things just kind of dropped off. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, preparation and, it's a lot of preparation to make sure you arrive at that point. And we just, busy lives, busy people just did not have the time to dedicate to that, but still could find time and topics to get together and talk about video games on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So we just sort of built the game around that.
Like you're saying, we had a lot of big ideas about what the show could be. And I think it was fun to sort of experiment around and figure out like what worked, what didn't work quite so well, what was just a lot of work in general. So I think we eventually settled on a format that obviously has been sustainable through at least 500 shows. So
yeah,
I think we're doing something right.
Yeah, but if you want to see and hear those early experiments, they're still there on the internet for you to consume.
You really don't want to, though. I mean, it's true that you can. You do have the option to, but like, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. So I guess we should probably wrap this thing up on that somber note. It continues to be crazy to me that we've gotten to this point. And like Paul said, we've recorded well over 500 episodes. We have a number of episodes that we didn't even number. We did a Taco Tuesday thing for a while where we were talking about recording 2 episodes a week for a long time. So we've definitely put more than 500 pieces of this thing out into the world. But just
not
as far
to
as
speak ill of Taco Tuesday, but just what were we thinking with that? That was not sustainable.
Another one of my amazing gaming ideas, podcasting ideas. But so 500 is just a number. Maybe we'll do 500 more.
Maybe. Well, Cuba's looking forward to at least another 500. Paul is apparently on like number 500 million. This call came in from the distant future, so
right.
Not sure what's in the cards.
All forms of media are just video game hangover.
That ties in very nicely with everything being Taco Bell, so I'll take it.
Thank you for getting my Demolition Man reference on that. I wasn't sure if you'd pick that up.
We got it.
So we should probably wrap this thing up, right? I'm starting to get tired and punchy.
All right.
If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always consume 500 plus more episodes of this thing by following the links at VGHangover.com as well. You can join us on Discord. You get the link to that on our blog at VGHangover.com.
Start submitting calls for episode 1000 that will be out before you know it.
Yep. Just right around the corner, guys.
Yeah.
Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. Looking back on our old show notes, I would encourage you to make sure you download us in the Zune shop.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Zoom is a whole other thing now, but Zune was a thing back then.
It's been a long time. How the world has changed
crazy
since then.
The rise and fall of the Zune. And, maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show.
The show outlasted the Zune. How about that?
That's crazy.
Yes.
Maybe not that crazy.
Maybe not that crazy, yeah. It comes to no one's surprise.
I mean, we also outlasted the iPod, so...
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. I had to do a double take because I still just call my phone an iPod. Yeah, please tell your friends about the show. It really helps us get the word out. You have that one stubborn friend who's like, I won't listen to any podcast who hasn't done a minimum 500 episodes. Well, now he can give us a try, so please do that. I want to give thanks again to Eric Skiff for our classic intro music, going all the way back to 2011. And coming up, the outro, we will have a song from the game V, 2011, 2010 classic. It's old.
Nice.
By Soul Eye. So thank you so much. Please head on over to VGHangover.com, check out the show post. You can get links to their Bandcamp to download the full album.
Nice. We'll be back next week with, business as usual, video games for us to talk about.
Yeah, man.
Which is kind of what we've done this week as well.
I feels like uncharted territory from here.
I know. Crazy. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover for 500 million years. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.
A dining room. What? What is this?
What is it?
Blood. Jill, see if you can find any other clues. I'll be examining this. Hope this is not Chris's blood.
Barry?
Brains. What is it?